children lost, ensnared by a witch's binding spell. Jessiie, the awakened soul, yearns to escape and find a new home. Dare you join her and explore more?
So we're gonna get a little bit serious here because, like I said, it is a very dark and disturbing subject. Let's talk about the Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials were a series of hearings and prosecutions of people accused of witchcraft in colonial Massachusetts between February 1692 and May 1693. Now, more than 200 people were accused. 30 of those people were found guilty. 19 of them were executed, and that included 2 dogs. So I wanted to talk about what made someone a witch, because a lot of people were accused, as you can tell. Now, mostly women were accused of being witches, especially women who were independent or self-educated. They were viewed with suspicion and made for convenient scapegoats when things went wrong. So if the harvest failed or livestock died, people would blame the women, and women were far less likely to be given a fair trial than men were. People also thought you were a witch if you looked the part. So if you had a visible wart or a crooked nose, if you limped or you had a hunched back, any sort of thing out of the ordinary or weird, people would think that you were a witch. Every old woman with a wrinkled face, a furrowed brow, a hairy lip, a gobbler tooth, if she had a squinted eye or a squeaky voice, people would immediately point at them and say, yeah, she must be a witch. There was just this intense paranoia around this time that everyone was looking around over their shoulder trying to figure out who was a witch and who wasn't. Another thing was that if you were 40 years or older, you had a higher chance of being accused. My dog is like licking the carpet and then he coughs because the hairs get in his mouth. Can you stop? Another sign was that if you had no children. Many accusations of witchcraft were made after a child or several children had fallen ill or even died suddenly for no obvious reason. And actually, the Salem witch trials came about after small children in the Massachusetts village started suffering from these seizures. So right away, all the childless women were blamed. It was commonly believed that such women were simply jealous of mothers with their children and used their black magic to make them suffer. Another sign people said you were a witch is if you talk to yourself a lot. And I mean, lots of people talk to themselves on occasion. I mean, I've done it. So back in the 17th century, if you were muttering to yourself in any way, people thought that you were possessed by evil and they would turn you in. They basically thought that you were like casting spells on your neighbors as you walked by. This was actually the case with a woman named Sarah Good. She was accused of practicing black magic during the Salem witch trials. She would frequently be spotted walking around her small village muttering to herself. So these local girls came forward and accused her of being a witch, and she ended up being found guilty. Another sign was that if you didn't dress smartly enough, it was women who were expected to follow strict dress codes and who would be judged the most harshly if they attempted to show any individual taste or sense of style. There was this woman named Bridget Bishop, and she was hauled before the court, and people were saying that she wore too much black, and because her coat was torn and worn, people thought that she was a witch. Doesn't make any sense at all. Also, if you knew anybody who was accused of being a witch, you were guilty by association. For instance, there was this girl named Dorothy Good, and she was accused of being a witch even though she was only 4 years old, which blows my mind. And this was simply because she was a daughter of a woman who was accused. Often sisters of these witches or husbands of these witches were also brought before the jury. Another thing is that if you were financially independent, something was wrong, you must have been evil. Back in the 16th and 17th centuries, independent women that lived alone with no man to support them were often viewed with suspicion. So if this woman is financially comfortable, she's doing well on her own with no one else helping her, no man to help her, jealous neighbors would go forward court and accuse her of being a witch. According to the records, around 9 in 10 of the women executed for witchcraft between the years of 1620 and 1725 were financially independent. People need to keep their jealous mouths to themselves. Another thing is that if you were left-handed, you were accused. Like I said, anything odd that's different from anybody else. If you had a cat, you were guilty. People believed that cats were actually humans who had committed bad deeds in their lives, and so after dying, they were forced to return to Earth as a feline form. From that point onward, cats were seen as malevolent spirits, so a lady living on her own with a cat or other household pet for the company was immediately put under suspicion. I cannot believe the way things were back then. So yeah, dogs, cats, people didn't want you to have a pet or you were a witch. Another thing is that if you were illiterate, you couldn't read, you couldn't write. Even if you struggled to speak in public, let's say you had social anxiety, you had a stutter in some way, you were trying to speak a language that wasn't your own, you were a witch. That's because it was believed that witches were unable to recite prayers or passages from the Bible. So if a woman was suspected of practicing black magic, she would be put in front of the court and given a Bible and was told to read a passage in front of everybody. If she could not do it, let's say she wasn't able to read, they would just assume she was evil. So those are all of the things that would make you a witch back in the day. I feel like I would have been accused because of some of these things were so ridiculous. I wear black all the time. So I'm just gonna bring up a few other facts about Salem and the witch trials before we end the video. In June of 1914, a horrific fire tore through Salem's leather manufacturing district after being ignited in Boston Street. It burned for 2 days and it left nearly half of the town's population homeless and jobless. Apparently it destroyed 1,400 buildings, which is insane. The superstitious believe that the fire was started by the spirit of Giles Corey as revenge for his death by torture during the trials. And witches still bring tourists to Salem to this day. Salem prides itself on having a thriving tourism industry driven in large part by global interest in the history of the town. Every year, more than 1 million tourists flock to the town, and many visit the Salem Witch Museum and historic sites such as the 17th century witch house. Now, this is perhaps the most famous building in the town, which was built sometime between 1620 and 1642. During the trials, the house belonged to Judge Jonathan Corwin, and this judge brought accused witches into the house to interrogate them before their trials. I could literally make 3 different videos on the Salem witch trials alone. I was trying to pack as much quick information as I could into this one, but if you want me to make a part 2, definitely give this video a thumbs up and let me know. So last time I concentrated more on what made someone a witch, if you will. And today I'm more focusing on random general facts about witch trials. Doesn't even have to really be about the Salem witch trials. So we're just gonna jump right into today's video. First, let's talk about the devil's mark. So the devil's mark, or the witch's mark, it was said to be a permanent mark inflicted by the devil onto a witch to show her obedience to him. It was believed that he literally scratched his claws against the witch's skin or used a hot iron to poke them. So when they were trying to figure out if someone was a witch, they would literally strip these people down and search every inch of their skin for a mark that was unusual. Some people believe that the witch's mark could be found in unusual places, like on someone's eyelid, in someone's armpit, on their scalp, under their hair, a place that no one usually sees. So when they would look over these people's bodies, they would be like, close your eyes, move your hair around, let me see your armpit. It was crazy. Then we have something called prickers. Pricking was the act of using a small needle or knife to prick a mark that was thought to be the devil's mark. So if they found something unusual, which was usually like a birthmark or something, they would take these tiny, tiny needles. They would poke the mark, and if that person wouldn't bleed, they would assume they were a witch. And the crazy thing was, people were paid back then whenever they would turn in a supposed witch. So many fake prickers were produced. So these men would use a needle or a knife that would actually retract whenever it touched someone's skin, so it never poked them at all. And so obviously they wouldn't bleed. It kind of reminds me of like those fake swords at a costume store where like if you you go to like hit someone with it, it goes in so it doesn't actually hurt. They created stuff like that to make money off of these poor women or men who were thought to be evil. Then we have witch cakes. Witch cake was believed to have the power to reveal whether a person's illness or possession was actually caused by witchcraft. So the cake was made with the urine from the accused person, creating an extremely unappetizing cake that was then fed to a dog. If the dog displayed the same symptoms as the possessed person or the witch, this was considered enough evidence that the person was a witch. So for example, if someone was having convulsions, which were seizures, they actually thought the person was being possessed by a witch or by something evil, and so they would take that sick person's urine, give it to a dog, and if the dog began convulsing, they knew that person was evil. But that never obviously happened. But it was believed that if that possession was transferred to the dog would be able to point to the person who was the witch and lead the people towards them. So like suddenly the dog gets super smart and he's like,
over there. It's that person right there.
Then we have something called the ducking stool. The device was made of a wooden or iron chair attached to a beam and was usually placed near a river or pond. It was repeatedly lowered into the water with the victim strapped to it. And this was typically done multiple times for long periods and often proved fatal through drowning or shock, which is absolutely awful. And people would just like gather around and watch this happen. And then probably the most famous test for witches was the swimming test, in which a suspected witch was stripped down to her undergarments, tied up, and thrown into the nearest body of water. And they thought that if this witch sunk, they were innocent, and if they floated, they were a witch. Now, most people think that all witches drowned during this cruel test, and while accidental deaths did occur, the suspects usually had this rope tied around them where they could be pulled from the water if they did sink. So some people would and some people wouldn't. This test came about because it was believed that water would reject witches' bodies. Then we have a device called the witch's bridle. This is sometimes also known as Scold's bridle or Branks, and the witch's bridle was a torture device used to stop witches from reciting spells, and the device was usually made of iron and acted as a muzzle with a piece of metal permanently placed in the mouth, and it usually had spikes and it would lie flat across your tongue, making talking excruciatingly painful and pretty much impossible. And this device was used as a method of humiliation, and it usually had this chain attached to it so the witches could be pulled through the town and people would look at them and laugh at them. I found this really strange story about King James I of England. King James I of England came to the throne in 1603 and he was terrified of witches and thought that they were going to kill him. While he was King of Scotland, he had traveled by boat to Denmark to marry Princess Anne, and after the wedding they sailed back to Scotland, but there was a storm so violent and so fierce that James believed that it had been sent by witches. James and Anne had to wait in Norway for a few weeks for this terrible storm to pass. That's how long it took. And when they finally arrived back in Scotland, James immediately started this investigation to find out who caused this storm, and in turn 70 people were accused of being witches. He thought that they caused the storm and he ended up killing them, which is awful, but that's just how things were back then, which is terrible to think about. Anyways though guys, those are the other facts that I was able to find about the history of witches and witch trials. I probably could pull out one more video from this sort of topic, so if you would like me to, give this video a thumbs up and let me know. Alright, let's get into our very first tree. This one is called the chained oak. The chained oak is an old tree in England that is wrapped in chains to prevent its branches from falling. It's actually quite an eerie sight to see in real life. The long chains are wrapped around the trunk and are dangling down from the branches. And this is due to an alleged curse put upon the tree in 1821. The legend goes that the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury refused a woman's pleas for money. He had been riding in a carriage in the middle of winter, returning home from a grand banquet, when this figure suddenly appeared before them on the road. He could barely see who it was with all the falling snow, so the coach stopped and they could see that it was a very old woman standing there covered in rags. The Earl was apparently disgusted by her appearance, but the woman walked right up to him and asked him if he could spare some money for an old beggar woman. But the Earl mocked her request, so she placed a wicked curse on him and his family. For every branch that falls from the oak tree, a member of the Earl's family would die. He didn't believe it at first, but later that night, one of the Earl's relatives died suddenly under mysterious circumstances. It turns out there was a violent storm and a lightning bolt severed a branch from the oak. And as the curse had warned, one of his family members died. So now convinced that the curse was true, the Earl ordered that the branches of the oak should be chained up to prevent more from falling. And whether this legend is true or not, this oak has been fastened with chains for many, many years. Apparently this oak is approximately 13,000 years old, which is crazy. Okay, our next tree is called Oak of the Witches. An enchanting oak tree thrives within a Tuscan forest. Its thick, mossy branches stretch horizontally, giving it a strange, squashed appearance. The old tree goes by many names and has inspired its fair share of legends and lore. According to this one local legend, witches used to gather at this 600-year-old tree. They danced wildly atop its gnarled branches, transforming the plant into a stage for their chants and ceremonies, and supposedly their rituals actually stunted the tree's growth, causing it to have this very warped shape. So it started to reach outward instead of upward because they were always atop it, kind of squishing it down. Children around the world also believe that Carlo Collodi, the man that wrote Pinocchio, sat beneath its large branches while he was writing the story, so people also call this tree Pinocchio's oak. Okay, then we have the tree called Old Knobbly. At 800 years old, Old Knobbly is one of the oldest oak trees in England, named for its twisted and gnarled appearance. It's apparently more than 13 feet tall and 36 feet wide. And over all of its years of growth, it has been through a lot. It's been struck by lightning, it's been ravaged by a fire, it's housed a giant hornet's nest, and according to local folklore, it has sheltered alleged witches from Britain's most infamous and ruthless witch hunter named Matthew Hopkins. In the 17th century, this witch hunter was responsible for the execution of 300 accused witches in just 2 years, and it's believed that Old Knobbly was used as a sanctuary for the witches that he hunted. Those accused of being witches could find shelter and hope of safety in the cracks and crevices of the old oak. If you look at pictures of this tree, it has a bunch of holes in it. It has a bunch of places that would be perfect for someone to hide, especially in the late hours of the night. It's perfectly shadowed. So a ton of these women would come to this tree and would hide in hopes that he wouldn't find them. And he usually wouldn't because this tree was such a good shelter. And I've done a couple videos on the witch trials, so you know how horrible they were. So it's kind of amazing that this tree is still around even though it was housed for protection for these accused witches. And lastly, we have the Angel Oak tree. Angel Oak has a vast history and many think it is the oldest of all of the living things east of the Mississippi River. It is now about 65 feet high and the branches go about 17,000 square feet. The tree is about 400 years old and gets 40,000 visitors every single year. And during the day, tourists come out to see this beautiful tree and they can just appreciate all of its history and how old the tree really is. But at night, the tree brings a ghostly energy that has been seen and felt by many. There's this one story that comes from 2008 about a couple who had just been married. They wanted to go back to the tree to spend some time there under the light of the moon together. And they said that as soon as they walked up to the tree, they felt this strange energy. It was like something they had never felt before. Then they said they saw what they thought were spirits. They said that there were glowing shadows of humans and they were all over the tree. The woman even said that some of the spirits looked like they were hanging from the branches. And what's very disturbing is that the story of them seeing these spirits does match up with the history of the tree, because slaves were apparently hung from this tree back in the day say the land did serve as a plantation in the past. So as beautiful as people thought the tree was, it had a horrible, horrible history. And so these poor spirits were making themselves known to people, especially at night. There's actually another story about a couple who had gone to this tree just after they had been married, and the man started carving their initials into the trunk of the tree. And as he was carving, they began to hear all of these noises around them, all of this screaming, sort of like sounds of torture. They said it almost sounded like they were suddenly surrounded by a mob of angry people. So the husband put the knife away, stopped carving the tree, and that's when they saw these bright flashes of faces all through the branches of different spirits. So they ran as fast as they could away from the tree and told everyone what they saw. So yeah, this tree has a horrible past. It is very haunted, just like the other ones that I spoke about, and it is insane how many haunted trees there are around the world. So if you want me to make this more into a series, give this video a thumbs up and let me know. Alright guys, so without further ado, let's get right into today's video talking about this witch. She is also known as the doll maker. So you guys know how much I love the movie Coraline, about the other mother that so desperately wanted children that she created this amazing other world where she basically lured children in so she could give them button eyes so they could become her child forever. Well, I recently came across this old legend that really gave me the same vibes, but it's definitely different enough that I had to make a whole video on it. There's also just something really creepy and eerie about witches in the woods, especially when dolls are involved as well. This story is about an ancient witch that lived deep in the Appalachian forests. And the Appalachians are a mountain range in northeastern North America, and many people know that a lot of paranormal folklore is associated with them, from ghosts to evil creatures that lurk in the forests. And it is thought that the early settlers were incredibly superstitious when night fell across the hills. The forests would come alive with spooky, unknown sounds, and whatever they heard or saw in those dark woods probably found their way into ghost stories that have been told for centuries. And the story I'm about to tell you is one of those. But before I tell you about this very creepy witch, I just want to go over a few rules that people make sure to follow whenever they go into these forests. Rule number 1, if you ever hear your name being called in the Appalachian forests, no, you didn't. Especially if you're traveling alone, and especially if it's at night, or if that voice wakes you up from a dead sleep saying your name, do not answer, do not acknowledge it, just keep hiking. Or if you were woken up from a deep sleep, do not go back to bed. Instead, you should build a fire and keep yourself awake at all costs. Rule 2, if you hear screaming in the Appalachian forest, especially a woman's voice, no, you didn't. Ignore it at all costs and do not try to find the source. It could be the sound of foxes, but worst case scenario, it could be a creature you just do not want to meet. Rule number 3, you guys should know this one by now, do not whistle at night. If you whistle into the night, you're telling the whole forest, here I am, come and get me. And trust me, you don't want any of the things in the forest to know your location. Rule number 4, when you seal up your tent for the night to go to sleep, make sure you seal it tightly. Most things in the mountains will see a tent and think nothing of it, and the smarter things will leave it alone if they see no way in. But if there's any openings, you don't want to know what will happen next. And rule number 5, if you want to sleep under the stars, build a fire big enough to burn through the night until sunrise. It is not to keep you warm. Let me just say that. So now that you have a good idea of the kind of dangers that lurk in these forests, you can know that the witch is definitely one of those dangers. No one knows how long she's lived there. Some say she just always has been. She's an ancient spirit. She's lived by herself for so long that she became incredibly lonely, wishing she could have children of her own, but was never able to. So instead of just being at peace with that, she decided that she would go and seek them out, to hunt down the spirits of the lost children to take for herself. And how did she do this, you may ask? Some children that are hiking with their families in the forest veer off the path and get lost. They get distracted by the sound of distant singing or humming, and this is actually the witch's way of hypnotizing them and capturing their attention, making them walk directly towards her. But the most common way that she collects her souls was by building her old house right next to an area of the woods with a long staircase that stretched right up to the sky. And you might remember I made a video about those stairs in the woods a couple years ago. It is said to be a phenomenon that hikers come across in the woods, and you should never climb them if you do find them. Some say you enter another dimension at the top. Others say you perish and become a lost soul in the woods forever. And the witch knew this and collected those souls that climbed the stairs. Well, then she came up with this plan that really reminded me of the other mother. Using all of the spirits that she had collected, she made a doll with buttons for eyes and put all of their spirits into it. She essentially created herself a daughter just using scraps of material around her house, and that's why people called her the doll maker. And with her magic, she was able to make this doll sentient, so all these souls she collected became one soul. Then the witch gave her a name, which I actually wasn't able to find in my research. There's no record of it, but we do know this doll did have a name. And instead of the witch being a loving mother, she was strict and cruel. She didn't let her daughter read books or hear music or play games because she wanted to be the doll's only source of happiness, which is so crazy to me and so sad. The witch just longs to be the perfect mother, and in doing so, she just wanted to be the center of this doll's world. She thinks she can provide her with more happiness and entertainment than music or books could do. Well, as you can imagine, this doll began growing very resentful of her witch mother. She could sense all the innocent souls inside of her and knew what an awful thing her mother had done. So one night, while her mother was fast asleep, she climbed out of the window and ran away through the woods and into the darkness, and no one has seen her since. So for a long time, people have told hikers to look out for a little doll in the woods that had escaped the clutches of an evil witch, but no one has ever come across her. It is also said to keep your eye out for the witch that may want to put your soul into a new doll. It's a very, very sad legend, and it just makes me wonder what that doll is up to now. Like, I wonder where she is, what happened to her. It's gonna bother me. I worry about her. I have something weird to tell you guys, and I have to sit down for this because I need to explain it, and maybe you'll think I'm super weird, but we're gonna sit for a sec. So you guys know that I have really weird dreams. Like, I talk about my dreams all the time. And the past, I would say 2 nights or so, I've been having extremely weird dreams. Like, in my dream, I keep seeing figures appear behind the windows of our bedroom, like something's watching us, but I don't know what it is. And then I've just been sensing, you know when you feel off and you kind of get that sense that someone is watching you or something is watching you, but I don't see anybody. I just get the weird feeling. Like, everyone knows that feeling. It's like a feeling of paranoia, like something's sort of off. And I just think, Ty?
Yeah? Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's probably just construction workers. They probably just need to get in the basement. They need to do some measurements.
Oh, okay. Should I stop the vlog? Do you want to just look outside first?
Yeah, sorry.
Who is it?
Whatever it is, it's for you.
Oh, what is it?
It's got your name on it. You tell me.
Jessii, open me? Who's it from?
In all these years that I've known you, I've learned not to question anything that shows up.
Yeah,
it is
but
packages upon packages that keep arriving here.
This isn't from Amazon, and what's with the creepy writing? Do you see a return address or who it's from?
Yeah, I wouldn't be judgmental, Jess. Some people, when it comes to penmanship, they have a little bit of trouble, okay? You know, I'm one of those weird ones that, you know, is very, very precise with my writing.
I don't usually get packages like this.
I mean, it could have been packed a little bit better, I will be completely honest. You want to see what's in it?
Yeah, let's go inside and see what's in it. You know what? It could be one of the weird things that I ordered from eBay.
The style of box kind of makes up for it. Really sketchy packaging.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember what I ordered because I've ordered so much, but it could be like one of those things. Okay, I did not order this. Did you get this for me?
I really wish I could take credit for that, but no.
You didn't actually?
No, because that would require me being thoughtful, Jess, and you know I am not that.
I mean, she's super cute, but she's also sad. And she has button eyes. Reminds me of Coraline. I didn't order this though. I'm serious, I didn't order it.
Doesn't it kind of look like you though?
Yeah, a little bit. And I love her outfit. But I didn't order this doll. We gotta find out who it's from.
Oh, is there a return address on it or something?
No, that's what I mean. Like, it doesn't even say who it's from. Anywhere. It just says, open me and Jessii.
Sure, maybe there's not like a neighbor that it could have been for. I mean, it'd be odd if they had a doll that looked like you that they were purchasing.
Maybe it's like from one of my subscribers, but then that means they found my house.
But needless to say, Winnie's asking out right now, so we need to figure out what's going on after that.
Yeah. All right, guys, so update. I called my parents, called my friends, texted everyone I know. No one sent me this doll. So it's kind of a mystery right now. So I think at this point, I'm just gonna put her on the bookshelf in my room and just see if anyone lets me know where she's from. But yeah, she just looks so sad. Like, she looks like she's staring into my soul right now. It's just really odd. So I guess I'll just put her right here on my shelf, and I'll come check on you later. Just heading into the office to do some editing, but isn't that weird how I was just talking about something weird, like a weird vibe happening in the house, and then the doorbell rings and that arrives? That is weird. Guys, it's like 5 hours later now. I just came in the room to look at the doll again, and...
Sure you didn't just misplace it, Jess?
No, like, you'll see the footage when you edit it. I literally put it on the bookshelf. What's weirder is that there's literally little acorns throughout the house, and in place of where she was, there's a note. Let me show you. Well, it's not really a note, it's more of a drawing of a witch pointing at us, and this is where the acorn starts. Do you want to hold on to that?
I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, to be completely honest.
I don't know either, Bean. This is so weird.
First off, the bangs, bad idea.
The bangs. Okay, this is not even funny.
It doesn't work with the outfit. I'm sorry, but it doesn't.
Is this a joke you were playing on me?
In all honesty, I wish. As I said, it required me to put thought into it, and like this is full out like old-fashioned like linen paper.
Yeah, I know. As you can see, we're gonna be collecting acorns here. It's like a trail. And okay, that is me.
That's not cryptic.
Ty, what the heck? Okay, I can't even hold everything at the same time. That is my profile picture with button eyes and an A. I don't know what the line is for.
Is it a Jessidash?
No, I don't know what that means. Yeah, I guess you're just gonna be the collector of papers right now.
I'm pretty sure this is like evidence in most cases, so now my fingerprints are all over it, so thanks for that.
Should we call the police? Okay, can you also hold the acorns?
I feel like this kind of like crisis management we're going through right now really shows
Hi.
the world how we are in our relationship.
There's literally another paper.
What am I gonna do with all this? Like,
I'm so confused.
so they're giving you instructions now.
Sticks, a doll, acorn. I don't know what they want us to do. This is going all the way up to the door, Ty. What? What the heck is coming out of the doll?
It's like some reverse Ghostbusters stuff.
Okay. We're gonna have to lay these down on the table after. Okay. They're continuing to go.
Yes, you know, in situations like this, usually following the trail's a bad idea.
How can we not?
Jess, if we get to the end of this and it's a stick propping up a box, you're definitely the one going into it, aren't you?
What does that mean? It means it's a trap?
You know, like those old-timey traps?
Yeah.
It's like stick box. That's
Yeah.
definitely at the end of this. You're walking right into it, Jess.
They're literally all the way down our driveway right now. How many did you get? Holy! Okay, it's going out onto the grass. Okay, are we even gonna be able to see if there's acorns here now? Oh, there's one right there. This is gonna be like playing I Spy. I'm
Usually
just
times like these, if
confused.
you had something a little brighter and maybe a little less natural.
Okay, I'll let you...
Does the path end here?
I don't know. Does it not keep going?
There's one here.
You have way better eyesight than I do. I'm just wondering, like, where would she go?
Oh, there's one. So I guess it's kind of in this direction. Oh, it's mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay.
That's not good. Better keep the dogs away from that.
Fairy circles, too.
Oh,
Right by
there.
my foot.
Okay, so I guess it's not straight ahead. It's veering off a little bit. Seems to be.
Okay, it's creepy because we're getting closer to our forest.
A little bit.
How are you even seeing these?
With my eyes. We're doing quite literally the exact opposite as everyone does during a horror movie. You know that, right?
know.
Or sorry, no, not the exact opposite. The exact same.
Yes, we should be doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, should be doing the exact opposite.
Ty,
What?
I think I see her over there. Oh my gosh. Right at the entrance to our forest. She's just lying here. Girl! And look, there's acorns right by her hand. Girl, what are you trying to tell us?
They're just trying to tell us it's a trap, Jess. We're in like the worst spot right now.
Ew, I'm so creeped out right now. Okay, so I can only assume that she's trying to tell us that she came from the forest. Ty, I just did a video on my channel a few days ago talking about a little doll with button eyes that came from the forest. No one knows what her name was, but she escaped a witch. I don't know, I know it sounds silly, but like it's a little bit coincidental, don't you think? Unless like someone found out and they're playing a trick on me, I don't know, but I'm creeped out.
Concerning, seeing as they would have had to get into our house, Jess.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I'm just really creeped out and I'm getting really bad vibes out here now. And I think we need to bring her inside and just like look at the drawings that we found and try and figure it out. All right guys, we're inside. I thought we would lay out the clues here in order. These are all the acorns that we collected. So it's this, then this. I still don't know what this means. Then we had this one. It's like she's telling us to collect stuff and do something, I don't know. And then there was this one last.
Reverse Ghostbusters.
So if you guys can just take a look at these pictures, take a look at the clues, let us know what you think she's trying to tell us. Isn't it crazy that we're literally talking about a doll right now? Leaving us clues?
Jess, how many other ridiculous things have we dealt with? We have a literal pile of dolls in the basement. I would expect this by now.
Wait, that's true.
You keep bringing in haunted stuff. Is this any different?
Okay guys, please comment down below what you think is going on, and hopefully we will know by the next video. So stay tuned, I'm scared and worried, and I'm also worried about this little doll because she looks sad and it looks like she wants us to know something.
Just keep it distance from you, just to be safe.
Keep it away from me?
Hey, there's this creepy doll that we just got. Let's
I know.
rub it on our faces. No, we're not doing that. Not until we find out what the heck's going on.
All right. Anyways, guys, see you in the next vlog. I am here with the doll. It has been a very long weekend of trying to figure out all of these clues. But you guys have been so helpful and you figured it out pretty much right away. All of you guys had some really good insight. So thank you so much for all of your comments and help with this. It's been pretty freaky. So we're gonna go through all of these clues and tell you guys the answers thanks to you. But it turns out I was right. It seems like after I did that video on my main channel about the doll maker, things kind of came to our house that had to do with that. I think the witch was really upset that I exposed her and told the world, thousands of people, what she was doing. So I was her next victim, and this sweet little doll came to tell me and to warn me about what was up. So let's go through all of these. Obviously, that means the first one is self-explanatory. This is the witch pointing at me because I am next.
Well, they're pointing at me right now.
They're pointing at you right now. I think we were both next. That's the problem.
Well,
right?
there's only one finger. They're not doing like a...
Not doing this?
No, they're not doing that.
And this was the one, I think it was the hardest clue to figure out, but once we got it, it just made sense. This is the clue to the doll's name, actually. And once I said it out loud, I feel like she just like vibed with it right away and I knew it was right. So her name is Jessii. As you can see, this is me, so Jess. And I guess that she put two buttons on here to show like that's her. And then and line, Jessii. And it's such a cool name. Obviously, like, I vibe with Coraline. That's her name. She was trying to tell us her name. And yeah, she does look like me. We're like twins, basically. That's like creepy but cool in the best way. She left this one for us. So 6 sticks, we assume is gonna be 6 souls. So there's 6 souls inside of her, right? The witch stole the children who climbed the stairs in the woods, put their souls into a doll. So I guess she got 6 of them. At midnight, you take 6 sticks, you take the doll. We decided to use 6 acorns because 6 souls. So then we had to find a fairy circle and put all of the things into the fairy circle so that the souls could be released from the doll. And as you can see, 6 souls are coming out. So we did do this last night at midnight and we have the footage of it. And it's really creepy, and our camera was acting up so bad because of all the crazy magical stuff that was going on. So we're gonna show you the footage of that right now. Here you go. Okay, we are headed.
Strangest list of things you gave to me today. We're gonna go see our in-laws, we're gonna film a podcast, and also do this strange ritual that a doll definitely told us to do, so.
Yep, in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
We actually had a full moon a night or 2 ago, so it's kind of a creepy time of the year
don't
right
worry.
now.
it's still creepy.
And it's October 1st.
It is October 1st.
The time when the realms become closer.
I saw it earlier. If we come over on this side, I think.
What did you see? Don't scare me right now.
I feel like October is the time for spookiness. Oh, no, it's covered.
What was it?
The moon over there is red today. It's a little orange right now.
Yeah, you can kind of see the clouds around it right now.
Yeah, but if this was like a, hey, why don't you do this at like 10 o'clock sort of, you know, thing, ceremony. I don't want to say the R word when it comes to this.
Yeah.
It would have been really scary because it almost looked like a blood moon almost. Nevertheless.
Okay, so I sent him on a fairy circle hunt.
And thankfully.
Did you deliver?
Well, you know, they're almost always right on the edge of the forest. And I personally don't want to deal with bears. So I looked a little closer. Well, yeah, anything that's bigger than me and might bite me. There's one right around here.
I don't see it.
There it is.
Oh, little red mushrooms.
A little tiny one.
That is so cute.
I mean, I'm not sure how fungus works, but I think the more colorful they are, the more dangerous they are.
Yeah, I think bright red ones aren't good, but...
What the heck are we supposed to do?
Start with putting the doll in the very middle.
Okay.
Is that a giant spider? Oh, that's a mosquito eater.
No, there's mosquito eaters everywhere, so hopefully this doll isn't afraid of stuff like that. So we're just gonna toss that right there.
In the center.
And then you made me collect sticks, which...
Sticks and acorns.
I mean, my inner child thanks you for that, but I prefer not to do it in the dead of night like you asked me to.
Here, I'll put the acorns down first. We'll put them right beside the doll.
How many did we need?
6 of each.
Okay, and then 1 stick. I consider this a combo, but it's still basically 1.
Yeah,
2 sticks.
Okay.
3 sticks. Little stick. 4, 5, and 6.
So there's not really any rules as to what happens once she's in there, but I assume something's gonna happen because, you know, all 3 things are in there, so...
Like, is there anything that we're supposed to say? Or?
I don't think so. Maybe I should just say, like... Are you okay?
I just don't like this cough. Still feeling a little odd right now.
Okay, maybe we should say, please release the souls.
But how many souls are there? Did it say?
There looks like there's 6 souls in there.
6?
So,
okay.
I guess we just wait.
Supposed to say it as many times as we need? Or what the heck is
No,
supposed
I think
to be
we just wait
on?
for something. What just happened to the flashlight? Ty, what just happened to the flashlight?
I don't know.
Is it going back on? It's not turning back on at all?
No. Well, at least we have the light from outside.
Yeah, but we're in pitch dark right now. I can only see her face. It looks like the screen of the camera just turned off. Like, the light's still on, the green light, but I can't see anything through the screen right now.
Okay. Just give it here a second.
You're gonna take it? Here, why don't you hold it and try and fix it?
Yeah, let's see if I can fix it. Okay. I think we got it. Jess, please, I don't need your flashlight right now.
Ty, that's
I
not
think.
the flashlight.
What do you mean?
It's not the flashlight. Oh my gosh, the light is completely surrounding her, Ty.
That's a little creepy.
Creepy! It's the scariest thing I've ever seen, oh my gosh. She just moved. She just freaking moved, Ty. Gosh, Ty, get the flashlight working. The souls are coming out. Oh my gosh.
What is this doll, Jess?
This is so crazy. Let's take her back inside. Okay, so how scary was that? But now all the souls have been released from the doll with your help, so thank you so much. And it's just so cool how it turns out she wasn't evil, she wasn't anything scary, she was actually just an innocent doll coming to save us and coming to warn us. And so thank you for letting us know all of the answers to the clues. And now all the souls have been released and now they have gone to destroy the witch, which is awesome.
I thought you were about to say destroy the world.
No.
We just did something absolutely awful.
We just released the worst thing. No. They were all innocent souls that are now going to go take care of business and get rid of the evil. So as a lot of you guys guessed, this was an ARG, which is a fictionalized storyline that we immersed ourselves in.
It's not a pirate.
Yeah, ARG.
Arg.
No, it's not a pirate. But this has been such a fun project and I love including you guys in stuff like this. It's just been so much fun. And so now I can tell you guys the most exciting thing ever, and that is that you can take home your own Jessii doll to keep it protected from the witch. So we're gonna put a link down below This is just the coolest thing I've ever been able to work on, especially because it's a doll with button eyes and it kind of looks like me. And like, she's just such a personality. I love her so much. She came out so amazing. Alright, so like I said, the very first story we're going to be talking about is called Soap Sally. There's a legend in some regions of Appalachia about Soap Sally. People say she's this creepy looking old woman who wears way too much makeup. And according to this legend, Soap Sally walks around the town at night looking for children who have run away from their homes. And if she finds one of these runaway children, she will grab them by the hand and she will lead them towards her house in the middle of the woods. And then nobody ever sees these runaway children ever again. So this woman is extremely creepy and you definitely never want to meet her, especially if you're a runaway child. So next time you're thinking about running away from home, think about Soap Sally. People say she turns the children she takes into soap. And if you guys didn't know, there's this special kind of soap called lye soap, and it's basically made out of the bones and fat of animals. And this is like a real thing that people use to make soap. So they say that Soap Sally uses the fat and bones of the runaway children to make her own special brand of soap. Some even say she makes the soap to resemble children's hands, which is kind of even creepier in my opinion because the hands look so realistic. And even scarier is that when she's done making all of these creepy soap hands, she walks around the town and sells the soap hands to the parents of the missing kids. That is so messed up. So these parents are out like searching for their missing children and she's like, hey, wanna buy some soap hands? I swear, they're only soap. So every single time a child would go missing in this town, a few days later, Soap Sally would be out there selling her soaps. And like no one put two and two together? No? And apparently she would sell them for super cheap to these unsuspecting sad parents. Ugh. So because this is a legend for hundreds and hundreds of years, parents from around this area have been telling their kids to behave and come home on time and never run away from home or Soap Sally would get them. So I read that story and I found it to be so disturbing and creepy. If your parents have ever told you about Soap Sally, definitely comment down below because I've never been personally told about it, but I'm sure some parents out there have been telling their kids this for years. Alright, next we have a story called Family Portraits. A long time ago, there was a man who went out hunting in the woods. As night fell, he found himself in an unfamiliar part of the forest. He walked and walked, but he couldn't find his way home. I feel like it would be so scary to be lost in a forest at night. And don't get me wrong, I love forests, but I would not want to be there lost at midnight or anytime after the sun goes down. Wandering aimlessly in the dark, he eventually came to a small clearing where an old cabin stood. Tired and weary, he decided to see if he could stay there for the night. When he walked closer to this old cabin, he saw that the door was wide open, and when he walked inside, he saw that this cabin was totally empty. No one was there. And what was eerie is that there was a bed, but then there was a fireplace that was burning. So obviously someone must have been there to set this fire in the house. The hunter threw himself on the bed and decided to sleep there for the night. And he just thought that if the owner came back to the cabin, he would explain what happened and hope that the owner would let him stay there. Lying on the bed half asleep, he looked around and was surprised to see the walls were covered with paintings. They appeared to be family portraits, all framed and painted in incredible detail. Now, these portraits were so lifelike, he said, and each picture that he looked at was uglier than the next. These people just looked so creepy to him, and he couldn't figure out why this cabin had so many family portraits all around the room. And the way they were painted made it seem as if the eyes were staring directly at him. It was incredibly unnerving. So he decided the only way he could sleep is to close his eyes and no longer look at these hideous faces looking back at him. So he lied down, put the blanket over his head, and finally fell asleep. In the morning, the hunter woke up to find the cabin bathed in sunlight. And when he looked up, he realized that there was no family portraits on the walls around him. Only windows. And that's how the story ends. It's so creepy. So if you did not catch that, basically all through the night, he thought they were family portraits, but they were actually windows where people were looking in at him sleeping. This story really gave me the chills when I read it as well. I mean, old scary cabins are creepy enough. I mean, to be watched as well, that's my worst nightmare. No thank you. And that's also why I probably would never like walk into an old scary cabin at night. I'd rather like sleep outside on the ground. Let a wolf get me. I do not want to be in a scary witch cabin. All right, and the last story I'm going to tell you guys is called Clap Clap. And this is actually kind of similar to the situation of the last story about a young couple who was lost in a forest. One day, a young married couple went hiking in the mountains. As the sun began to set, they realized they were lost. And the wife was getting very worried, but her husband was trying to comfort her. He was saying, don't worry, we'll find our way home. But hours went by and they still could not find the way back to their car. After walking for hours and hours, they still had no idea where they were. And it was growing very, very dark, so this husband and wife were getting very worried. They didn't have a map or a compass with them, and all the trees were looking the same. Just when they were about to give up, they came across an old cabin in the clearing. The cabin looked as if it had seen better days. It was dilapidated and seemed like it hasn't been used in a very long time. Some of the windows were cracked, the tiles were broken on the floor. It just seemed like it hadn't been used in like 50 years. So the husband knocked on the front door, but there was no answer. So they assumed it would be okay for them to walk inside and try to sleep for the night. Inside the cabin, there was very little furniture. There was a few couches and chairs, but there was dust all over them. As the couple walked around, they smelled something very strange in this cabin, something that had like a musty, gross smell. And the walls and floors were covered head to toe in graffiti, and written in red were the words death, 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 death. Over and over again, you guys get the picture. And the husband reached out to touch the walls and realized the paint was still wet. The paint. The couple was obviously very frightened, but they realized they had nowhere else to go. You know, there's wild animals outside prowling the woods and they wanted to be sheltered. So despite the creepy writing on the wall, they decided to sleep the night. So the husband and wife wrapped themselves up in an old piece of carpet and tried to sleep. In the middle of the night, they were woken up by this strange rustling noise. It sounded as if something was walking around or moving around inside the cabin with them. So the husband walked around the cabin, he didn't see anything. So then he walked up to the bedroom window and he looked outside and he called out, "Who's there?" But there was no answer. And he was about to go to bed when the wife was like, maybe the person who's out there can't speak. So the husband looked out the window and said, "If there's anybody out there, clap once for yes and twice for no." And all of a sudden he heard a loud clap. So he turned to his wife and he was like, "You're right, there is someone out there and I don't think they can speak." So he tried to communicate with this person out there with clapping. So he leaned out the window again and said, "Are you the owner of this cabin?" And then he heard clap, clap, which means no. "Are you a man?" Clap, clap. "Are you a woman then?" Clap, clap. "Are you human?" Clap, clap. So everything is a no. So a chill went down his spine because he asked if this thing was human and it said no. So then he asked, "Are you alone out there?" Clap, clap. "How many are with you?" Clap for each person that's with you. Clap, 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 clap. And it went on and on and on. So each clap was for how many things were outside the cabin. And that's how the story ends. And I found that to be so creepy as well. I mean, something about clapping with an unknown force is just not okay with me. I remember there was like a clap clap scene in, I think the Conjuring movie it was, and that scene used to creep me out so much with like this unknown clapping going around the house. So yeah, I'm not sure I'd want to play the clap clap game with any sort of ghost, but I don't know, maybe I will someday, who knows, on the vlog channel maybe.
In an enchanted realm, an oddity stirs, beckoning the curious. Meet Jessii, once ensnared, now awakened, waiting to be yours.